We continue in chapter 12 about the Beinoni. And everything that we've learned about the Beinoni. The powerful prayer that they are able to have. That their love for God brings them to a state where they are have no desire for anything worldly, but just their connection to God. And after, when that is gone, they still have Mayach Shalat Alev, mind having dominion over the heart. Or they add even more than that of holiness of the divine soul, that its light is so great. By being motivated, introducing that into the mix, and that allows them to negate any spirit of folly, any feeling in the heart that may bring them to have negative thoughts, that they're pushed away. But nonetheless, this person is not deemed a tzaddik at all, right? Because when we speak about that, they incorporate their godly soul, and the godly soul has such a great light that the light of the soul pushes away a lot of darkness of the world, a lot of darkness in their heart. But it's only pushing it away in an automatic way, only in the garments of the soul, the thought, speech, and action. But the essence and the core of the divine soul isn't dominated by in the Beinoni, meaning the urges of the heart are still there in the left part of the heart. They remain undisturbed, not displaced at all by the divine soul and its great light. Right, after their prayer with a burning love. But it remains there in their heart. So, okay, so we spoke about the mind and its dominion over the heart. But how about the heart itself? I mean, it's not enough just the mind having dominion over the heart. There's something more that allows the Beinoni to be to rise to the occasion and not allow the expression of any thought, speech, or action in their lives that comes from the animal soul. So where is it coming from? You know, their heart was full of love of God in an open, fiery fashion in prayer. So where's the love now? Is it just the mind over the heart? No, there's also the heart. But that's the hidden love. Meaning that there's a natural love that the divine soul has for God that's hidden. It's not revealed because you meditate. When we spoke about the mind having over dominion over the heart, so, you know, that can come through, you know, in a godly way, through the mind's understanding. But here, there's something natural, which we're going to speak a lot more about in chapter 18 and 19, about the hidden natural love that we have in our heart for God. Not for fulfillment of our own whims and desires. It's hidden, though. And after prayer, where the revealed love isn't there, and therefore possible for the folly of the left ventricle of the heart, of the animal soul, that it could reveal itself, right, in craving all kinds of material, physical things as an end in itself, in a manner that, as if that, like the Beinoni never prayed, right, yet you won't allow that to enter, because there's a natural love also for God. And it won't enter the person's mind in actual practice, in actual willful thought. Right? Especially in thought. The Beinoni is very careful when it comes to thought. Because thought, you know, Speaking, what is speaking? What does it mean to, to communicate? Communicate means you're communicating with another. So it's an expression of you to someone else. Action, likewise, is an action in the world that it's expressed to others. But thoughts are not expressed to others. It's an expression of me to me, right? Of what's in my inner heart that is expressed in my thoughts that I'm only aware of, right? So it's a greater expression of who I am, and therefore, on a certain level, it is worse when we entertain, negative thoughts in our mind than even the actions of the fulfillment of that thought. So let me explain. A second. Because
There's a couple of more questions too, Rabbi, just so you know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're not there yet. Um, Thoughts are, again, a deeper expression of who we are, meaning, in the thoughts, as Baal Shem Tov says, that's where you find the person. You could say, I love you, but you don't mean it. You could do an action of something that is an action of love, but in your heart, maybe you don't, you're not thinking that. But your thoughts are really where you're at. So in that respect, there's something much more um, important about our thoughts that we need to deal with. And the Beinoni recognizes that and therefore is very vigilant that negative thoughts or the heart's desire for, any cravings that come from the animal soul, the Beinoni won't willfully think those thoughts, won't allow it conscious awareness, and pushes them away. And this is one of the three things that are so difficult to avoid because we will, as the Talmud says, there are three things that a person for sure will be challenged every day. One is sinful thoughts, right? Thoughts that we shouldn't entertain, negative thoughts towards a loved one, right? Or whatever. The lack of concentration in prayer, right? And slanderous gossip. Three things that are very difficult to avoid. So here we're speaking about specifically thoughts. So there's the great vigilance, the Beinoni, when it comes to thoughts. So let's unpack this. And what we have over here in the short class of today is after prayer, the Beinoni still has a mind, as we spoke about in the previous class, of having Moach Shalom Lev, the mind over dominion over the heart. But even the heart itself also needs to be brought into play, so to speak, and into service of God. It can't be just the mind, and the heart is, because we have the hidden love that is expressed in the soul of the individual. That now, that hidden love, the Ava Mesoteres as it's called, will allow the individual to that the cravings of the left ventricle of the heart from the animal soul, that inherent love that we have in us will be also expressed, and not allowing even a thought to enter our minds that should not enter our minds. It's an important idea. Okay, let's go to questions and comments. 2 question marks before you ask a question, please. Okay, we have over here.
First,
I have it. Yeah.
Okay.
When Mashiach comes, will our heart be circumcised right away? We'll have to wait for Mashiach to come, but I think it's a process. I think it's a process. That's, but hey, maybe it won't be such a process. Maybe it'll be quicker then. I'm not certain. But I think it'll be a process. Andrew, if we can truly focus on the Shema in all our prayer, can for even a second, for a second more, I guess, our urge for our own self-gratification be for a second stopped. Exactly. So thank you, Andrew. In other words, it's a process, just like when Mashiach will come, there'll be a process. Right now, it's also a process. It's not all or nothing. In other words, if in our prayers we can be a little more focused today than we were yesterday, so then think about it. The more you're focused in your prayers, or any, like now, learning, not just prayers, but right now, right? You're more focused today than you were yesterday, or the day before, or last week, or whatever the case may be. Not only are you more focused, right? But what you're doing is actually not allowing the urge of self-gratification of the animal soul to be expressed. That's amazing. That's stupendous. Right? So not only are you doing good, but you're not allowing the negativity of the animal soul to find its self-expression because you're focused on the mitzvah that you're engaged in right now. We're learning Torah, or previously if you're praying, davening, whatever the case may be, and that little more focus is in a sense subduing, crushing the negativity of the animal soul. Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you for bringing that up. Very important. Denise, why does the mind and the heart struggle with each other at times? Because God says, I never promised you a rose garden. And life is about the struggle. And that's what God loves about us, is that we struggle, that we can do the right thing, to do the godly thing. So, the mind is more objective, the heart is more subjective, and usually the subjectivity of the heart, right, will be the subjectivity of the animal soul. So it's the animal soul struggling against the intellectual soul or the godly soul. Thank you, Denise. Alice, how can we act in a pure Beinoni way if my occupation might be based on using my animal soul to convince people to buy something like a salesperson? Is that an appropriate okay, right. Well, I get, a salesperson doesn't mean they have to be, you got to be honest. So if a salesperson is being dishonest in order to gain a sale, then that's obviously the animal soul. It's interesting. Thank you, Alice, for your question. Very good. After 120, what the first question we're going to be asked? It says, did you do business with trusting God? What do you mean? Well, why not do business honestly? No, there's a deeper question. In other words, if you trusted in God, then when you did business, you'll do business straight. And you won't be a salesperson who is conniving and just wants to get the sale. And, well, lie outright, white lie, bend things, and so on. So if you really do business with a trust in God, then you know that your livelihood is coming from God, then you don't need to, you can be a salesperson and be honest and be real. And I'm wondering if that might not even in the end work out better because the people will trust you more because they see your honesty. I think it will, personally. As a matter of fact, just had a yard site of um, people when we were on the street Queen Mary, and so we had a minion, and then sometimes in the morning we needed a tenth. Went across the road to the cleaners, dry cleaners, to the owner, and asked him to come, and came. Eventually, came on his own to be a part of the minion, and eventually they closed their business on Shabbos. The busiest day for a dry cleaner is Saturday. Closed it. They trust in God. And you know what happened? Their business actually flourished more after they closed their business on Shabbos. Interesting. So that's the first question you're asked. So thank you for that. John, what is the process by which the Beni no longer is tempted by pleasure of this world and begins to approach the level of a tzaddik? John, excellent question. We're going to get there. I don't want to, we're going to discuss that. It's more in chapter 14. Oh, we'll be there sometime, maybe at the end of this week or something like that. Or I don't know exactly. But excellent question. If you can hold on to that question, if you don't mind, because we're going to learn that very specifically. Okay, great questions. Vicky, seems like those desires to feed the self are much more likely when feeling great pain. Will all the pain be healed also? Yeah, so all the pain will be so healed as the verse says, that God, I will praise you that you have pained and afflicted me and our people. That's how great will be the revelation of God's presence time of Mashiach. That all of the suffering that the Jews have gone through in the last 2,000 years and more, we will praise God for it because we will come to a whole different level. Yeah. Beautiful. Negative the Beinoni. Oh. Remember, 2 question marks before you ask a question, folks. Okay, I think that's it. Eliana, please share with us.
Good morning. Yes, I just have a question with regards to Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. He's listed as one of the most, or as at the time the wisest man on earth, and yet he seemed to struggle with, acquiring more than was necessary. He had more horses, more wives, more concubines than Torah even permitted. So where do we place him within the realm of Zadik, of Benoni? Where is he? Because he seems, we elevate him to one level, but at the same time, he doesn't seem to, he seems to struggle with having, the desires of his own heart.
Right. So that's what it would seem as a cursory reading. But when we look deeper into it and understand it on a deeper level, just as a cursory reading of Chumash and Moshe Rabbeinu, you would think, oh, well, he did a sin. I mean, he hit the rock and didn't talk to it. That's a very simplistic 5-year-old way to perceive it. And the beauty of Torah is that it can be perceived as the 5-year-old in their simplicity, in their black and whiteness, but the nuance of it is lacking. And when you have the greater nuance of it, then you see that, not so simple. So I'm not going to go into the detail of Shlomo Melech over here, But indeed, he is a tzaddik. How is this possible? Okay, another time we'll go into that discussion. That's not Tanya, so it's not for the moment to go into any. I'm just giving you the basic idea as opposed to the full developed idea. And even with Moshe Rabbeinu hitting the rock, it's a much more profound idea. When you come to if you come to learning as you do yourself, but if others will also come, when it comes to the parsha and those questions, so we deal with them then as we study. But yeah, good question. Good question, and so that's the basic idea at least. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, wonderful. All right, folks. A reminder, 1 o'clock Rambam at 6:30. Torah studies, the Parshas Vayera. Exciting stuff. Redemption of the Jewish people. Beginning. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zechron Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day, a good tavach, a good week to everybody.